All right, folks, this is I guess this is literally the first episode in our Watch Me Work series. The first one was kind of a screen test. This one is the real thing. On this first episode of Watch Me Work, I'm joined by my good friend, Mr. Robert Evans. He's a world-class wedding photographer, and he's going to tell you about that a little bit. And then we're going to get into some processing of a bunch of images that he captured. All right, all that's coming your way next. This is TWiP. All right, folks. So watch me work. This is a brainchild that I want to take credit for, but I really got to give most of the credit to my friend, Mr. Troy Miller. Troy and I were chatting about, some different ways to engage with the TWiP Pro community. He suggested this. So I'm going to be sitting down. Actually, I'm sitting down right now with my friend, Robert Evans, who is being captured via Zoom right now. Hey, Robert, what's going on, man?
How are you, Fred?
I'm doing good. I want to dive into your stuff here. So what are you going to be talking about today?
Well, you wanted to watch me work, and everyone that's sitting here ready to get the best Lightroom tutorial in the world is going to be very disappointed.
Hey, don't sell yourself short, man.
It's all about how I work. I do a very simplistic, I think it comes from shooting film. I've been shooting for a long time, 25 plus years. And, when we shot film, of course, we didn't have Photoshop and all those things. So you kind of learn to do it right the first time. And that's kind of how I've always kind of been. I don't look at Photoshop as like, I'll fix it later in Photoshop. It's like, I try to fix everything and control everything, so to speak, when I'm shooting. But the things that I can't control, then I will go back into Photoshop and Lightroom and, adjust those things. And I think, even as photographers, I'm pretty happy with the way my images come out of camera today. I shoot Sony, and the sensors in those cameras are quite amazing. And really, if I didn't want to, I probably wouldn't even have to do any posts, but because I can, and it's what we do. And we all want to spend hours and hours in front of the computer.
Yeah,
I do. But I do try to keep my post process very simple. So I guess you'll see that. So what I did is this is a destination wedding that I did in Cabo back in late November, sometime around there.
Mm-hmm.
And I just went through and I picked not only just images that I wanted to process, but then I picked images to kind of also give little wedding day tips too. And how I think and what I do when I'm at a wedding. And you'll see it obviously as we go through that. There's maybe 30 images, and I'm not going to like detail process each one of them. I'll pick and choose probably, but that's kind of, that's what you're looking at is that wedding, and just kind of how I do it. And what you're going to see is like generally all I do is I'm cropping. I'm probably doing a little color correcting, contrast, sharpening, maybe vibrance. I just want to make the image look better than it does in its raw form, I guess.
Before you dive into that, you said something pretty, you glossed over it, but it's pretty revolutionary in terms of wedding workflow or any workflow, I think. And that's the fact that you're now at a point where you could not do any post-processing at all. But you do a little, just add a little salt on the steak, but you could get by without doing. Is that true? You could take your images right out of camera, and those are saleable.
I totally believe so, because I think as photographers, really, we are really the ones that are like picky, and the debate over the color and the this and the that. But the general consumer doesn't know the difference.
Yeah.
And I think even the picture as a professional photographer that you take is 100 times better than probably what most people take if they're actually using a camera.
Yeah.
And of course, look how many people are accepting of what comes out of their phones.
Yeah.
Yes, there's good quality that comes out of their phones, but it's still not a camera. And there's still more things you can do and control the creativity and the look when you're actually using a camera.
Yeah. Love it. Cool, man. Well, let's dive in. I want to watch you do your thing. I get
share my screen.
All right.
You tell me once I do that, I think I see the little green line that tells me my parameters.
Yep. So yeah, go
Uh,
ahead and take it full screen whenever you
okay.
want.
So what you're looking at is the few images that I said that I chose.
Mm-hmm.
This is Photo Mechanic that you're looking at. It's probably one of the fastest ways to just cull your images. So, or when I say cull, to select the ones that I want. And usually what I do, if there's two people, let's say it's a 1 day wedding. This happened to be the whole weekend, and I just have a few from the night before. But if I just shoot a 1 day wedding between myself and my second photographer, we might come back with 3,000, 3,500 images. I myself might shoot 1,200 to 2,000 at the absolute most. Again, I try to just shoot what I need and be confident in what I have instead of spray and pray and shoot a bunch of stuff that I don't want to edit later. So what I do is I go through and I tag, you can tag, I just tag this first image pink. As you see, as I go through them, I can color tag them. And there's about 5 different colors, but I go in and I just tag, I edit in, meaning that I choose everything that I like as opposed to what I don't like. Because mathematically, if you choose what you don't like, if I'm shoot 3,000 images and I keep 1,000 on first pass, well, I tagged 2,000 images that I don't like. So mathematically it's longer, right?
Right.
So
Right.
I tag everything that I do like, even if there's multiple copies of that. And then once I have that done, I pull that into Lightroom. And photo mechanics, really easy. Like what I would do, just so you can see it, I'm not going to do it, but I would select all these images. And then over here to the left side are my folders. So I would have a folder that says, like, here's the wedding, Matt and Emily right here. And I created a folder, as you see, called TWiP Pro of these selects. But then I would just take it and I would drag it right in there. And as I do, you see it pops up with a number and says you're taking 46 files into that folder. I'm not going to let it go since they're already there. But that's exactly what I would do. And I would move them into a folder called Best Raw. And then from there, I would take that folder and then I would take it into Lightroom, which is here. And so this first image is one of my favorite images from this wedding. This wedding was in Mexico, so they brought a donkey into the restaurant. This was the night of the rehearsal dinner, the night before. And the donkey was in there, and people were petting it and having a good time. And I'd taken a few pictures with people or whatever, and I sort of walked away. And I was walking around shooting a 70 to 200 2.8 wide open. I do that a lot. I have a couple images to come up with. I'll shoot candidates, but I shoot available light a ton at my weddings now without flash. I mean, I'm using less and less flash because I can.
Mm-hmm.
I think I like to capture the mood as I see it or as people see it and remember it. Now, with that said, I do have a second photographer, and a lot of times they're shooting flash. So even if we were doing cake or something like that, like I'll shoot available light, they'll shoot flash, and then I have both looks for the client. But as you'll see in some of the images, like the next two especially, it actually works and looks good. So this image, it's a little dark because I was shooting something else, obviously, that was brighter. And when I turned, I kind of like heard somebody laugh, and I turned around, and this is what I saw. This is the very first image of about the 5 that I grabbed. But this one is my absolute favorite because of the expressions of the 2 women in the background.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
literally, I just bring it up a little bit. Now I look at it, I probably give it a little contrast. The donkey's a little yellow, but I mean, that was the lighting. It doesn't really bother me.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times when I do shoot open like this, if it is faces or whatever, of course I could make it black and white. So you see that, but in this case, I like it kind of the way it is. So if I desaturate it just a little bit, I mean, it takes some of that yellow out, but I could go right here to the orange. I had it selected, and then I pulled down, pulled some of the orange out of it, pulled some of the yellow out of it. And, now the donkey is, I don't know that he was white, but I mean, that's fine. If I up the vibrance a little bit, it's going to kind of add some of that color back in.
Yep.
But I'm happy with that. It doesn't have to be, I forget what let's see if we jump back over to Photo Mechanic and I open that image. I just so you know what I was at.
Oh,
Shutter
wow.
speed
Yeah.
was 640 at 2.8, and I was at 25,600 ISO.
Jeez.
So you see there's a little noise in it, but the noise doesn't really bother me. And again, like I think I just read something the other day on the internet that somebody said like the clients never say anything about noise. Again, it's just us.
Mm-hmm.
But if you do, that does bother you. There is the noise reduction here, and I can take it down a little bit, and you see it went away.
You're gonna have to one day. You're gonna have to tell me the story about this donkey drinking the Corona.
I didn't know. It was just again. It was like they bring the donkey, and it was kind of like a sideshow, and they gave it. He drank about 4 beers. Like when I saw this happen, I was like, I thought it was my one and only shot at getting this moment, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't know that it would or wouldn't happen again. So of course, I grabbed it, and then I got several other shots. He drank other beers, but again, this one happens to be my favorite because of the expression on the women, because they're both sort of reacting like I was.
No, Robert, you're shooting RAW plus JPEG, right? And then you're processing the JPEGs here.
No, these are the raw files.
These are just the. I'm sorry, I had it reversed. Yeah. So these are the raw files, right? Okay.
And I don't shoot. I typically just shoot straight raw.
Just straight raw. Okay. So you don't. Yeah. And why is that? What's your methodology? What's your mindset behind that? Because I hear different things.
I don't know. I just always think, what do I need the JPEGs for? Because I'm gonna make JPEGs from my raw files. Mm-hmm. Now, if your camera has dual card slots, you can do a redundancy, so you could have raw in one, raw in the other, or you could shoot raw to one card, JPEG to the other. It's really like whatever you want to do, but I figure I'm just shooting raw, probably because it's just a little bit longer to process.
Yeah.
I can shoot a little faster if I'm just shooting a raw file. I think I shot this with the A9, and that camera shoots pretty fast, and I usually keep it on. Somewhat, I probably wasn't prepared for this. I probably didn't have it on 20 frames a second for this, but I did get off, 7 or 8 frames of this.
Yeah. So is that your normal? What's your normal runaround settings for your camera at a wedding? Is it aperture priority, continuous high?
No, I shoot in manual a lot, actually.
Okay.
Which is probably why that file was a little dark. Mm-hmm. Because generally, me walking around shooting candids at the rehearsal dinner, nothing's happening really fast. So as I move around to different lighting conditions, I can adjust my camera. That's one of the beautiful things about Sony is the EVF viewfinder in it, or the electronic viewfinder. I can adjust the shutter and the aperture, the ISO, whatever I want to adjust. And I'm watching it adjust in real time right in front of me. Mm-hmm. So I see what the exposure looks like. It's not a guess. So you're a little freer to shoot manual, and because I'm just using my eye, I go, yeah, that looks good to me. And I also do keep the histogram up in the lower right hand corner of the camera, just to make sure I'm not crazy and I'm not off too much. But
yeah,
I generally don't look at it too much. But
that's cool. Okay. And do you run around? I don't want to delay you too much, but do you when you're running around a wedding, do you have 2 camera bodies with you that have different lenses on them, or just one with a nice zoom?
I do have 2 bodies. I generally don't have 2 hanging off me because I don't like that. Mm. I'm just more comfortable holding one body. I don't like them banging against each other. In certain situations, I will. Mm. If I really want the ability to have 2 lenses, a long lens and a wide lens, or a long lens and a medium lens, then I will do that. But generally, I'm just shooting with one camera and just changing lenses as I need.
Got it. Okay, cool.
So here, this next image. So this is me walking around the rehearsal dinner. These 2. This is one of the staff, and then these guys. But this is something very typical that either I will shoot candids of people not looking at me, or I smile and I'll gauge them or whatever, and hey, you guys want a picture? I'll even say to them, But this is straight available light, no flash.
Nice.
So I do a lot of this stuff, and it's quick. It's not flashing in their face. It's over before they know it.
Yeah.
That's the same thing with these 2. I mean,
And what's your
really,
what's your runaround lens? What lens was this one shot with?
this is a 70 to 200 2.8.
Okay,
This is
got it.
the G Master
Yep.
that I was shooting. So the same thing with this. I mean, there's really nothing. I mean, I could mess with this, but hold on, I need to move our faces over to the other side of the screen because it's in the way of my controls. You know, I might with this, I probably would pull highlights down just to start to see like
those the pitas.
Yeah, it comes. I mean, just because they're not, you know, makes. I'm looking at my blacks and my whites, so my blacks just got a little bit blacker, and you know, I might some vibrance. I might bump up the contrast just a little bit, but like that's almost even, you know. I don't know, and that's fine with me. I mean, it's as I saw it, as I remembered it. I mean, if those two got that photo, they'd be happy with it.
Mm-hmm.
I might, you know, crop it just a little bit. You know, I don't really, there's stuff on either side that, so the plates I think are a little bit more interesting, so I could come up, but I don't want to lose that tortilla, right? It's kind of like what she's doing.
Yep.
So, you know, right there, it's not a big crop, but I think any cropping you can do will always make your image look better. I think it's the number one thing that people can do to make their images look better.
Bring the viewer closer into the scene, right?
Yeah, just crop. You know, it's like I teach, you know, something that I teach, and I call it like the power of simple, and that's just like simplifying your images to make them more powerful. And one of the easiest ways, the most basic ways before you do anything else, is probably just crop it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can crop it and then go from there.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Now, when you're editing a like a real wedding, you know, you've got your images and you've imported, or you're about to import everything, or you've imported. How long does it generally take you to get through one image? Is it seconds? You're just flying through, or is it depending on the image?
I spent a little, but it's no more than, you know, maybe a minute if I'm spending some time on an image. But I also try to utilize Lightroom. Like I have a bunch of images coming up in the next few images where they're kind of all similar lighting situations. So I would adjust one image and then copy and paste and or sync the whole thing. Mm-hmm. So like this image, you know, right away I'd probably bring it down a little bit. What I like about this image was just kind of the artistic. I like the roundness of the hairdryer, but then the art in the background. So the first thing I'm going to do is like try to straighten that out a little bit, and then I'm going to kind of come in and get rid of as much of him as possible. And to me, that's kind of what I was going after. Mm-hmm. And then I like this image probably better black and white.
Yeah,
give it a little more contrast. I'll pull the highlights down so that
get a little more data in the maps.
Up the shadows a little bit, which, you know, I want the blacks black and the whites white. So if I adjust the blacks and I adjust the whites, you know, I mean, that's close enough. It doesn't have to be rocket science. And then there, I mean, I could, if I really wanted to. Here's another thing with cropping that I'll just say this, is that in my world, because 99.9% of the images that we'll ever see for the client, I guess, you know, that aren't going to be on the wall, even if they do, it's going to be in an album if my clients print it. So I don't mind cropping stuff, non-standard sizes anymore. Like, you know, so now that gets even rid of more him, and now it's even more of just, it's just the art of.
That's interesting. Yeah, because it was back in the day, it was, we had standard size cropping rules because it may have been printed to 8x10, 11x14, 5x7.
Correct. Right? If it was going to go to the lab, it had to be in a standard size. And if it wasn't, it caused all sorts of trouble. But I'm just using these to, you know, I'll use these to design an album for my clients. And when I do that, it doesn't matter what size they are in the book, really. And if for whatever reason the client decides, oh, I want a 5x7 or an 8x10 of that, and because I gave it to them as a JPEG cropped some funky way, I could go back to the original raw file and just crop it and give it to them. But no one, you know, I rarely have to do that.
Yeah.
This image I think is pretty straight out of camera. I'm big on, like, again, making your shot simple. So this frame to me is distracting over her shoulder. I shot it, tried to get rid of it. I was in a really tight space. Even there's a little bit right here. I'm just going to bring in the bottom a little bit and now crop it. And now all it is it's just about the bride. I could make it a little contrast here. I could bump those colors up, little vibrance, open up the shadows a little bit. But that's probably, it's a little orange. I think I tend to see that different cameras tend to take on different casts.
Yeah.
And my cameras tend to be a little orange, I think, sometimes. And you have to remember, like, I'm in a room, this is daylight coming in the room, but above her, there's probably lights on in the room that are throwing an orange cast. So that's all I would do to this, and I would just move on.
Now, Robert, are you working on a color corrected monitor?
Nope.
Yeah, me either. Yeah, I know some it's interesting. It's like a 50-50 split. I know some photographers will, I don't know, and it's a certain kind of photographer that will always tell you that, yes, I work on a color calibrated monitor, and which is fine, it's great, but my argument is always like it seems like you're correcting for the impossible, where you don't know the lighting, what the person's going to be viewing this in, or what device, or even down to the rods and cones in their eyes, right? You don't know how they're going to perceive your reds, right?
You could have the most amazing 10,000 color corrected monitor, but your client's going to look at it on their damn phone or their cheap computer or iPad or whatever.
Exactly.
So who knows what that's going to do. The other thing I would do to this, I just noticed that her dress was a little hot. So I just pull the highlights down just a little bit. But that's it.
Beautiful.
And again, this image is beautiful in color, but you could also be beautiful in black and white.
Oh, yeah.
And the quickest way to just kind of check out your black and white is just pull the saturation out of it.
Yeah.
I just slide the slider bar the other way. Oh, well, this looks like in black and white. Yeah, I like it. No, I don't. Okay, I'm gonna leave it back in color. And
do you leave those final decisions to the client, or do you just make all the decisions and say, here's your album, this is your Robert Evans album, like it or leave it?
Yes and no. As far as what I'm processing, they get it the way I process it. They don't get a choice. Sometimes, let's say I had 2 shots of this. Sometimes I will keep, I'm shooting like 3 or 4 images, like as I fired this image off, and I got 2 or 3 or 4 that are pretty much exactly the same. I might keep 2 of these because I like it, and then I'll make 1 black and white and 1 color.
Yeah.
But so in one of my coverages, in my basic coverage, if they just hire me, I refuse to do shoot and burn because, I've been doing this too long, and I think it's dumb that people just give their clients their files. I do end up giving my clients their files, but I make them, in my basic package, I make what's called a signature, Robert Evans Studio signature book. Mm-hmm. And instead of just burn, I don't just give them, I make them up to 50 images. I usually choose close, or therefore I use couture books. So there's a specific couture book that I use that I love. It's my style. Basically I tell people it looks like I'm giving you a book that came from a museum bookstore. That's the quality of the books that they have and use. And that's kind of what I like and what I gravitate. So that's what I sell and give to my clients. But when I do the signature book, I pick, up to 50 images, but I choose all the images and they have no say in it. So my goal is to get them an album within 4 months of their wedding. So I just make it part of my workflow. Mm-hmm. If they book a bigger package, I still do the signature. I still do that book. But then they'll choose, their 100, 150 images or whatever they end up choosing for their book.
Cool. That's awesome.
And then I design it and they still approve it. But this way, the way I look at it is I'm giving them a copy of my portfolio from their wedding. Like every image that I would choose, I'm not necessarily I'm not picking a picture of mom or dad. I'm trying to tell a story, but I'm picking my absolute favorite images. They could be artsy. They could be, I literally would put that hairdryer image in a version of my book. Mm. I think I did, as a matter of fact. Cause it's just, it says, and maybe and I'm with 50 images, honestly, I'm limited. So I only want to put the best of the best. I want them to have that book in their hands in 4 months, within 4 months, and then it's an 8x10 book. It's small. I don't have one in my fingertips that I'd show you. And really cool, touchy feely paper, nice leather cover that's fun to touch, that you want to touch. And but they're walking around and showing their friends, and half of them are going, wait, you already have your wedding album? Because if I leave it up to my clients, it takes them years to pick their pictures.
Yeah. Cool.
So that's why I started.
And what was the album company you say you're using again?
Couture Book.
Couture Books. Yeah. Okay.
Then it's couturebook.com.
Got it. Couture Book, singular.
Right. Yep. So this next series of images, let's see, roughly from, I don't know how many from this one, all the way to this one. I don't know how many images that is, but the point is this is one of my tips. The one thing that I do at weddings is I haven't shot the bride and groom walking, or the bride, I should say, walking down the aisle in probably 15 years. Now,
really?
Some of you just gasped and went, what?
Wait, how is that even possible? Isn't that part of the you must get these 12 shots or you're a failure type thing?
Right. So all of you that just gasped, well, it still gets done, but I'm not the one that does it.
Oh, okay.
My second photographer is always the one that shoots processional and is at the front of the church, the aisle, wherever. I spend the last 30 minutes before the ceremony and I hang out with the bride and groom. It's usually the bride. Sorry, the bride, her family, whatever. It's bride and dance. So this is a very classic case. But I'm going to flip through these. We're not going to process these, but I'll just show you. So I'm just hanging out with them. There's smiles. They're waiting and getting ready to walk out. And this isn't even all of them. I just did a select of some of them. They're smiling, and then the next minute the tears start happening. She got nervous. Yeah. Even here you can see the tear falling. If you see where I'm moving them out.
Yeah, look at that. Wow. Okay.
And I processed this image black and white just so that you can kind of see it. That's a little. I'll open up the shadows a little bit, but
wow.
It's kind of a flat, muddy image, but it's really about the moment. And so I tend to, because I shot film, there's 3 or 4 things, the criteria that I look for when I'm going to make an image black and white. The number 1 is emotion. Mm-hmm. Number 2 is movement. And probably 3 is really pretty available light, directional light, where it's going to look beautiful, black and white. But like I said, so if I wanted to do this black and white, and let's say that's all I was going to do to it, if I then went to this next image in Lightroom, you can just hit previous and it will do exactly what I did to the other one. So nothing changed, right? So if I really wanted, I wanted to make all these the same way, probably the first one too. It's really pretty quick. Or in Lightroom, if you select all of these, then you can go up here and it says sync, and it'll sync to the first one that you did, right?
And that's normally what I do. Like if there's a set of images that I know are taking under the same sort of lighting conditions or similar lighting conditions, I'll spend all my time editing the first one, being sure not to do any cloning or anything, right? And then just sync them.
That's exactly what I do.
Nice.
So just showing you a couple. We can do that up here. So then she got over. She's crying. And then Dad was showing her, I didn't show you those images, but then he had a custom suit that has the bride and groom's name right inside of it. So now here they go coming down the aisle. And, I like the framing of this, but I don't like all that, it needs to be brought in closer. I don't like that dude in it, but I can't control him walking by, right? I don't like the carpet in the bottom of it. So I'm going to frame it so that it's just them and the tree. And now it's a lot more clean.
This is available light still, right?
This is available light. I just bumped up the exposure a little bit. I usually always kind of go exposure contrast first. Yeah. And I'm in the shade, so it's probably a little blue. So I'll click on the blue and I'll take a little blue out, but I don't want to take too much out. I just want to see that her dress is white.
So Robert, what would the Robert Evans 10 years ago, standing in the same situation, the same lighting conditions, what gear would you be shooting this with and what lighting?
If I was shooting film,
Yeah, well, 10 years ago, whatever you were shooting 10 years ago.
uh, uh, well, 10 years ago is about, I switched to digital in 2003.
Okay.
So well, that's more than 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Um, I probably wouldn't be shooting flash. I still would be shooting available light. I'm
You would.
outside.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I'm outside. So yeah, I would not, I would not be doing that.
So that's one of the reasons, I talk to people about like the right tool for the right job, and the low light sensitivity of today's Sony's versus other cameras is,
But this isn't even low light. This is probably like, who knows what. I mean, I could, if I jump back to photo mechanics.
Yeah, it's not low light, but just to be able to be shooting that one and then go in and get the donkey, right?
This was I was at ISO 640 at 1250 at 2.8.
Wow.
So
it's so liberating. It is just so liberating to be able to do that these days.
I tend to shoot wide open a lot. So again, if and especially this case, I knew I wanted to try to minimize that tree as much as possible because I knew it would be coming out of their heads. They're right behind it.
Mm-hmm.
So in this case, like I could go up and have less on the bottom, but I don't like that hot spot at the top. I mean, I could definitely just come in even tighter.
Yeah.
And now cropped off a little bit of her dress. But this moment to me is like, yes, I'm looking at all that stuff, but it's all about expression. That's what I'm looking at. I'm waiting for them to smile. I'm waiting, for them to cry or whatever it is.
And how do you get that? You're in the continuous high and you're just like, hey, walk. Brr, 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 brr,
I'm watching them. A lot of times I look around the camera.
Mm-hmm.
And I look at them, and as soon as I see what I want, I just push the button, because here I shoot in manual a lot. So I probably had the exposure in manual. Maybe not, because I knew they'd be changing lighting conditions. I don't remember. But if my lighting is going to be consistent, I'll leave it in manual. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, I'm letting the camera focus now that they're moving, but I focus a lot of my family portraits and all that stuff manually all day long. But in a situation where my couple's moving, they're coming at me, I'm going to rely on the camera to focus, of course, because I am not that good.
Yeah. Do you think the camera's better than you on focusing yet, or is it still got a ways to go?
Oh, no, it's better. It's better than me, I think. But when I'm doing portraits and stuff, I really like to make sure I fine tune and focus on the eyes.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You don't want it focusing on the highlight on the nose instead of the shine in the eye, right?
And even though we won't do a lot of this, like this image, so when this ends up in the book, just talking about distractions and backgrounds, I mean, there's not much I can do about this, but I would go in and I'd probably take out this and this, when this shows up in the book, I'll spend 5 minutes. It's so easy to take this stuff out in Photoshop with content aware. I'd be like, click. I might even take this out, these little things out, because they're just kind of distracting. Mm-hmm. I might even attempt to take that bench out so that it's just clean. And that's probably all that I would do.
Yeah. And how long would it take you to do that, you think?
If I didn't attempt to take the bench out, they'd take less than a minute.
Yeah.
Taking them out to closing it and going back to what I was doing.
Nice.
The beautiful thing too is the program that I designed my albums in. It's called Smart Albums. I can put all this stuff in the book and design the book, and then as I'm going through and I'm looking at them, like, okay, now I'll look at it like, what can I take out of here that's distracting? How can I make this picture better? Yeah. And I will simplify it, and so basically when that album goes to print, I'm actually seeing it laid out too, which makes sometimes stuff stands out more now. Mm-hmm. And then looking at all, okay, here's my 150 files that go in the book. Go through them one by one. What would I do to this? Most of them I'm not going to do anything to, but in a situation like this, because it's so easy to take these dots out of the back and leave on the floor, I would do it. The bench, I might do it and see what it looked like and how it came out, because I would probably take it out in content aware, and then I'd have to go in and use the clone tool and then rebuild this edge, which is what I would do. But that really doesn't take long.
Yeah.
And
it's just a cloning.
Good, I would do it. If it looked bad and I was having trouble with it, I would just say screw it and I'd move on, because the bench is not the end of the world.
Yeah. And what was the name of that album software you mentioned?
Smart Albums.
Smart Albums. Okay, I'll put a link to that in the description.
So now these next few pictures, again, going back to me hanging out with the bride 20 minutes before the ceremony, this is the time of the day where I get some of the best emotional images that I can. So she's walking down the aisle, but I'm looking up the aisle and I see the groom, and this guy, to get a groom crying is rare. And when you get one, and it's like part of the emotion use, the girls are crying. That's kind of a really nice thing. So, here again, I'm like shooting in. I'm opening up the shadows a little bit, and then I'll make the contrast come back. It's blue. It's because of the shade. So I'm going to take some of the blue out, and now my blacks come back. The highlight, the background's hot, but it doesn't bother me. I want the background a little white. I'd rather see if I bring it down, it's a little yellow.
Yeah.
I'd rather it be a little white. And then the other thing in this shot is her, right? She doesn't have the best expression. So I will probably look at this like, okay, well, what if I crop her out? How's that going to look? If I crop her all the way out and then I come up and I just focus on these guys, I probably need a little more headroom. I don't care that part of her arm's in there, but now
you could take that out later if you wanted, right?
Right. Or I could do what I said and I don't have to have an exact crop, right? I can just go boop. Now the arm's out.
There you go. Done. Yeah.
So, okay, so I'm going to say, okay, what's if I bring the vibrance up a little bit? It's going to make his cheeks a little rosier, their suits a little more gray, but that's fine. I'm happy with that. So now what we were talking about, I can select now the next 4. I can hit sync, and now it's going to do that to the next 4 images, and I can go on to this one. So he's still crying. Now dad and bride are like entering the picture.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm thinking, you know what? I want these black and white because he's crying, got a little emotion going. Again, now she looks better in here. She's actually smiling too, so I could leave her, but I could just make it all about him, which it should be, I think, because that's what we're talking about.
Yeah. It's interesting. You're building a story as you walk through it.
Right. And then boom, there's the next one. Like, I don't know what the best man's doing. He's either crying with him or be like, dude, you're crying in front of all your friends.
Right. Yeah. Get it together, bro. Get it together.
Now she's in it. So I want her to include her, right? I mean, in a perfect world, but I can just, again, non-standard crop. I just pull this out. Now she's in it. If I wanted to get picky, her veil's a little muddy. I could brighten the white up a little bit. But again, this is to me is about the expression, and now her and her dad. I just did that same crop. I duplicated it. Now the one thing now this girl again giving me trouble. She's like scratching her head. So I could come down and get rid of her. And now it's just, I like having the guys in it too. You do have a smile. It's not the end of the world, is it? But.
No, Robert. So you bring up a question. Like if you're using the power of cropping and drawing attention to the various parts of the image that you want to draw it to, you need to start with a fairly high megapixel count image, right? So what are images like? What is this image that you're looking at right now? What's the size of it?
I believe this was the A9, and let me just double check, but it's 24 megapixels.
Yeah, so you got plenty.
I personally think, honestly, like you say that, but for a while I was shooting a lot with my A7S II, and that's only 12 megapixels. And for weddings, I mean, to me, again, 99.9% of these images are going to go in a book, and they're going to be no bigger than 11 by 14. And it's going to be 11 by 14 or a little bit bigger if I'm stretching it across 2 pages.
Yeah.
As a spread, that's going to be the very biggest print. And that's still big enough. And even 12 megapixels is big enough if the client decides they want a 30 by 40. But most people aren't ordering big prints anymore. But like I personally think 12 megapixels is fine. 24 is a little too big. I mean, I think in a perfect world, if it was like 18,
Yeah.
but I don't mind having it. It's just like, I love the A7R III, but that file's so big, like
Yeah.
it's just, to me, that's not a wedding camera. That's a commercial camera. It's a landscape camera.
Yeah.
It's something that you want a lot of high,
You need all those pixels in because you need to get in to retouch one side of the pimple, right?
right.
Yeah.
So again, I mean, just going on, like, here's the emotion. They're still hugging, there's two of these, right? I showed you both, but I would probably give them both, but only one of them would need to be in an album. Now, this next image, again, this goes back to really when I work at weddings, I sort of am the second shooter at my own weddings. I have to make sure that I have a really good shooter and that I trust, but then I'm free to kind of do whatever the hell I want to do. I'd already scouted this shot and I really kind of messed it up, and I'll tell you what I did wrong. But again, it's like you're working fast and you're working in the moment. So this is an infinity pool that's like way at the top of the hotel or the property. You walk to the end of the lobby and it looks out onto this. Obviously.
Oh, that's what's in the foreground, the pool? Oh.
Right, is the pool. And so what I was envisioning was a sharp edge all the way through, right? I was like, oh, so I want it to be sharp edge and I was going to lower myself so that the sharp edge was like just below their feet.
Yeah.
And then, so it was almost like infinity to infinity pool to ocean.
Yeah, that would have been cool. Yeah, like three stripes.
But what I did, of course, was, in the heat of the moment, is I probably shot this wide open at 2.8 and I didn't get that right. I probably really, to do that right, I needed the tripod and I needed to put it on the tripod, shoot it at f/22 and do that. But it's okay. I was like, okay, well, I didn't get it. It was a good thought. But in this instance, and maybe some people before were going, well, why are you making all those pictures of him kissing in black and white? Because you're getting married in an ocean. Well, I know that I have this shot and other shots that are showing my surroundings. Yeah. So, I mean, the first thing I want to do is probably make sure that ocean looks good. So I just bump the vibrancy like up a little bit. If I move the contrast up a little bit, again, it's a little blue because they are in the shade. So I want to pull the blue down a little bit, but as I do that, it changes the ocean. So I'm going to be okay with that. A little blue in her dress. I know it's kind of nitpicky.
Yeah.
If anything, I might even warm it up a little bit. So if I go up to the top slider and I warm it up a little bit, that's too much, but probably like right in there. And then of course I'm going to crop it.
Yeah.
So
where is it? Was this this is still the Cabo San Lucas wedding?
Yeah, this is the whole wedding's Cabo.
Okay. Yeah. I want to go there. That looks like a cool location right there.
So then now I'm getting rid of this, right? I'm just going with grass. I want to make sure my horizon is straight at the top because I got this critique recently and so
I was gonna bring that up. I was like, Robert, you better fix that horizon, man. I'm gonna call you out on it.
So, and then, okay, so now that's kind of, I can see my other photographer over here. He doesn't bug me the most, like in there. I mean, he doesn't make it or break it. The videographer really bugs me more. But if I wanted him out, I
just crop him right out.
Crop it in a little bit tighter.
Yeah.
I think I did take the videographer out for the wedding album.
Yeah.
And again, I just use content aware. It's really amazing how well that
tool
works.
And it's come along.
Back in the,
yeah.
If I bump up the saturation a little more, I like the stuff to be vibrant, but I don't want it to look fake. So like I'm looking at the grass and that's good. It's, it gives you a nice moment of.
I love that shot. That's pretty. And I love that you left the horizon. Go back to the other one again. Yeah. I love that you left the horizon in there just to give it the anchor point.
Yeah. If you want to see it without, that's what it is without.
Yeah, I mean that's cool too. I actually like it with the horizon in because it kind of tells you where the world curves and it tells you where you were standing almost.
Right. Now this shot, this is one of these two, and I left both of them in. So this image, this was like actually one of my favorite ceremony images, and it wasn't at first. It was like, oh, it's cute, it's whatever, but we'll see if you agree with. So let's first just. I bumped up the vibrance a little bit. Let's just make it a little bit punchier.
Nice.
That ocean's a little blue, but now she's a little orange. So then I'll take a little orange out of her arms, just a little bit. I mean, she's okay like that. It really changes the color of their suits because their suits are gray, right? So if I take down you know, it's kind of like, do I want the ocean blue
Oh, right, right.
or them? Um, in this case, you'll say I want the flowers a little yellow, or so I can open that up a little bit with the shadows. But see, his suit's kind of not black now, so I'm going to try to make his suit black. It's blue because there's a lot of blue in it.
Now,
But
do you ever do any selective adjustments where you can just load the brush and paint
yeah,
exposure
I
values in?
do sometimes, but I literally don't like to take the time. I'm like, you know
Yeah.
what? Okay, so now this shot's all about the crop. Like when you talk about, so I saw this and I was like, you know, well, it's hard because I want to keep as much of the flowers in it as I can. And this is what I did to this. I think I did. Okay. I left in, and I cropped it like that. Straighten it a little bit. Get rid of the bottom a little bit. And then what I did, let's see. I forget because I don't usually do it. Can't you open this in Photoshop from here?
Mm-hmm.
I forget how to do that.
It is Control click, edit in.
Where is it? There it is. Okay. Now open up for me. There we go. Okay. Is it in Photoshop? No.
It's in your summer. It's probably running in the background.
There it is. Okay. Oh, you know what? Hold on. Command Z. I don't want that crop because I was cropping something else. Original ratio. Okay, so that's my crop. But in this, so what I loved about this image was I like the hands in it.
Yeah.
So I wanted to get rid of the other distractions. So speaking of that content aware tool, so what I did was I went in, let's take her dress out of it. Let's take him out of it. Let's take his head out of it.
This is magic.
And it's still, so that's fine, right? Like what I really wanted, we don't have to go crazy, but what I really wanted, I know the horizon's still off a little bit and we can fix all that. But by doing that, I really love the symbolism of just the bridal party, the guys and the girls, so the flowers on one side and the groomsmen on the other, and then the moment. And that's how I left the crop. And I think that makes it so much better of a picture.
Yeah. No, it does. It does, because you got like what, 5 elements in there. You got the horizon, the bride and groom, the groomsmen, and the bridesmaid on the left, and it's just like it's easy to tell that story.
If I straighten up the horizon, it just cuts the flowers a little bit.
Yeah.
More, but that's fine. You know, I wish I had a little bit more of her hands. You know, but it is what it is. But but I love this image just this way.
That's a great image. That's a great image. That's cool.
So anyway, I wanted to just show that.
So gone are the days of the wedding photographer walking around with a sun-packed flash bolted to the bottom of their camera and a battery pack on their hip. Are those days gone?
Yeah, I don't use. I mean, so there it is. There's like just that slight difference.
Yep. Oh yeah, there it is. Perfect.
So anyway, I know we're running long, but so here's just more, like after, again, by me sort of being my second shooter, I'm free to do what I want. And I do a lot of my pictures before the wedding as well, which is, here's another point, is I do all my pictures, like I run on about a 3-hour time schedule, 4 if you count getting ready, prior to the ceremony. But when my couple kisses and says I do, they're done and they can go be with their family or their friends. But when I'm in an environment like this, a beach, a farm, whatever, I usually encourage my couples. I'm like, hey, why don't you guys go take a walk and I'll just follow you. It's almost like a second first look.
Oh,
I'll
nice.
follow them with a long lens and shoot candids of them. Now, this is a little bit after we had done, like, I follow them. I don't get in their space. I let them enjoy each other for 10 minutes. But this was like the one thing on the beach that, was interesting and pretty was this
It
barn or
works too. It works. You got you got
against that,
those.
yeah, against that green background,
Yep.
right?
Yeah, it's like a nice. All the color palette of the background works perfectly, right? Browns and
Right.
greens and earth tones, and then
Right.
you've
And
got the.
I could probably crop it in just a little bit, but not much because I want the top. I'll straighten out the roof line, and that's that. Though here's another example. Same thing, even if I did the previous adjustments. I love this picture, but what I don't like about it is the condos up above.
Yeah.
So again, if I bring the crop down, bring it in a little bit on both sides, and it's a little off kilter, and you crop it like that, a whole different picture.
Completely different. She could be
Much,
anywhere. She
right.
went from
And then
being in
I'm not going to
civilization
do
to
it
being
now, but
anywhere.
I'd take this out. This bugs me, whatever is on her dress.
Yeah.
That's again, if I see that stuff when I'm shooting, I'm going to get rid of it then, going back to do it right the first time. But sometimes you're flying, like we went down to the beach. I let them walk for 10 minutes. I didn't want them to miss their whole cocktail hour. We took a few minutes and then went on. Here's another, like I was doing family pictures. I did this after we did the walk on the beach, so I knew I had to do that as well. We just had a few to make up afterwards. But again, I knew I was using Flash, but I knew, in Lightroom, I could kind of just make an adjustment. I wasn't.
Make them pop.
I just look at my histogram.
Is this an on-camera strobe?
Yeah, this is just straight on-camera Flash.
Okay.
Sony Flash. And my rule, honestly, like I don't get fancy with family pictures. I have two rules. They need to be lit well and in focus. Done.
There you go.
You don't have to be like super creative, and because again, these people, they just want to have the memories. They need to be in focus, so you can't shoot your formals at 2.8 and the back's out of focus and your front, wide open. Here's the evening. Again, I'm shooting available light. Again, because I want to show, this shot was to obviously show the perspective of the stage and the guests. So I'm using, of course, selective focus, and I'm focusing on the stage, but I'm showing the people sitting in the audience. So if I want to see them a little more, I have to open up the exposure a little bit and then maybe pull the highlights down so they're not so bright. I just want to see the people. I could even bump up the vibrance more to make those colors pop a little bit. But that's that. I might crop it just a little bit. Those people hugging off to the side are okay, but I think I like them not in this one.
Yeah, it draws attention away. Yeah.
Right. This is, again, I told you I walk around a lot of my reception and I shoot candids without a flash. So this is no flash. All I have to do is open it up a little bit.
That's cool. Yeah, that changes a lot, right? Because I remember back in the day walking around with a flash, and you're just the annoying
you're not
guy.
Flashing it. I can be really quick. This I'm probably using manual focus. Because I want their eyes sharp, and I'm moving quick.
Are you using, when you're using manual focus? Does your camera support focus peaking?
Yeah, and I use focus peaking. I keep mine on red. I couldn't manual focus without focus peaking.
Right.
I rely on that.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because people are like, how does he do that?
Yeah, he's got just amazing eyes.
They did this little thing for them down on the beach. That's the moon. I was again shooting like available light, like wide open, because I really didn't want flash, but you kind of want to keep the mood, but you don't want to make it that bright and like lose it. And so it's just kind of like some sort of balance. I can bring the highlights down actually, which will, open up the shadows. And I think I made some of these. I gave them some of these in color and some in black and white. They're probably better in color. I mean, to me, it was like, I got so many other great shots. This was kind of one of those staged moments for them. Like, they did it for them.
Yeah.
But,
the resort set this up for them. as part of the
Yeah.
wedding package.
Yeah. So they just like kind of came down there and did it.
We'll set a romantic bonfire for you on the beach with no more than one bottle of wine.
Right. Here's another just available light, only using the stage lights. And these girls were just ripping it on the violins. I crop out the singer because I just want to, and here I'm looking at its expressions. I'm like watching them as I'm shooting them. So I love her expression, love her expression, love her expression. She's playing. Here's a great one where raw. So there's fireworks. But usually when I shoot fireworks, I either am relying on the video light or the videographer who might be shooting this, or I'm shooting flash, but I'm just popping in like 2 stops under just enough to light them. So I can light them up, but then if I bring the highlights down, it kind of like, you just kind of have to mess with it. I turn the sharpening up a little bit on this because it'll make that. I'll turn the saturation and that. There we go. Get that. I mean, really, I'm like, I don't care if those are nice and bright. And contrast. And of course it needs to be cropped a little bit. And then the other thing that I did to this shot, which I'm not going to do, but I'm going to point it out, is I did this. I should have just put it in here, and then I could have showed you the before and after. It's a little orange now. Their skin's a little orange to me, so I'll try to pull a little orange out.
Yeah.
That kind of feels the orange in the fireworks. It's just kind of that balance of. I added a little white right there, which kind of brightened it up. So these rods in the background, these were like, they did another kind of fireworks thing during their first dance, and it rained. It was like a fireworks wall, if you will. But again, I love this shot, so I went back in and I took all these out in Photoshop for their book.
I was going to ask you if you did that. Yeah,
and I also took this wall out, the upper wall.
I
don't mind.
So it was just grass. You're reducing elements.
So it's
basically
just grass and then I did have to rebuild the line a little bit this way, but it wasn't hard at all. So the shot is, it's that without all this stuff in it. And this is we're almost done here. So again, this is available like kind of during the reception. It's just the parents. It's a little blue, but here's the situation where I love the expression. I could just make it black and white if I wanted to. I kind of mix it up and give them a little bit of both. Of course, I would probably crop it way in so that we're just concentrating on the parents and their expressions. And then they had, first time I've ever seen this, they had sparklers on the dance floor because there's no rules in Mexico.
Of course, right? Yeah, they get to have fun.
So again, it's the same thing. Like I want to see the sparklers. Bump up the contrast or the sharpening a little bit. Of course, my colors a little bit.
Yeah,
I think this is flash mixed with, shutter drag. So
and this is on camera. Do you have any modifier on there, like a Gary Fong thingamajigger or anything like that?
No, I usually just use I put my diffuser over the flash a lot of the times. I don't so much mind this one star off to the left, but I don't need to see that guy with his flipping iPhone. So I'll crop him out, and now it's just kind of about them.
Yeah.
And then the next picture, I'm just going to use the previous. So now this one looks a little more orange, right? Changed because I use the same. But if I take some of the orange down, it just gets rid of it a little bit. And now her dress is white, his black's black. Again, for them, to me, it's about the expression. The color's not horrible, and somebody's going to disagree with me, but the dress is white, his shirt's black, their expressions are great. You can tell the sparklers are there. I've balanced the flash with a long enough exposure. If I go back to photo mechanic, let's just see what it was. So I'm at 2/8 of a second at 100 shutters at 1/100th of a second at 1250 ISO, 1250.
Jeez.
So that's the raw shot.
I'm still, see, I show my age, man, because I'm still, these ISOs still kill me. It's still,
it took
it's
me
still
a
like
while
thinking,
to get past, like, I would always cringe at 3200, 6400.
right.
Because that's what we were used to shooting with the film. But even like looking at this at 1200, I mean, this image is clean. There's not a lot of noise at all. And if I zoom into it, let's see. You still don't see noise.
No, it's clean. That's clean.
Background.
And you said this was what, 21 megapixels?
Yeah, 24, I think. 24.4 is the A9.
24 megapixels, and your flash, well, this one has flash, so you're,
Yeah, so this one I'm flashing.
Wow.
But that's kind of it. I mean, obviously you didn't watch me do a whole entire job. I give you a selection of, but I'm really honestly just looking at cropping. I'm usually warming an image up or taking yellow out of it. I'm looking for expression. I'm cropping for the moment and trying to get distractions out of my background. And even the stuff where even the fireworks photo that I said I took that stuff out. I didn't do that until I had that image in, laid out in the album. And then I looked at it and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to take this out of the background. And, like I want it to be as clean and as pretty as possible. Or if I, put that on my website for, like I have, let's see if it's up. You can see everything I'm looking at.
Yep. Oh, nice.
Get out of my way. Okay. So this is actually it's not live yet, but I'm working on a new website. But
oh, cool. Sneak preview.
Yeah. So it's kind of all about destination weddings.
Nice. Travel wedding photography.
There's that. Yeah. There's that.
Okay. Yeah.
Same couple. So they'll be on there. Yep. But yeah, and I thought I had that image on here. This is that girl's sister. The wedding I just showed you, this is her sister. I did her sister's wedding.
Oh, very cool. And this is robertevans.com, or it will be when you launch it?
Yeah, it will be. It's probably still a couple weeks away, but
who are you building? So is this Photo Shelter?
No, Into the Darkroom.
Into the Darkroom.
It's a new theme that they have.
Okay.
So
very cool, dude.
There's the donkey.
There's the donkey.
We started with the donkey and we'll end on the donkey.
And he's eyeballing you while he's drinking too. Look at that.
Yeah, that's what I loved about it. He's like, are you getting this, buddy?
I'm gonna do this for you.
You get one shot at it. Don't mess it up.
I got one bottle of Corona to waste on you, photographer. That's cool, man. Congratulations. Those are some cool shots. I love them.
Yeah, no, I still love what I do. It's fun. Jobs like that, of course, the travel stuff is fun because, you get to shoot 3 days. You spend the whole time with them. Obviously you're in a nice place usually. But I like the aspect of the weekend weddings when I'm away because then you're getting to know everybody. You're spending a lot more time. I mean, really a lot of times I'm like there 3-4 days. I'm shooting rehearsal dinners, golf, brunch. Well, brunch is usually the last day, but welcome dinner. So sometimes you shoot 2 nights before you actually even get to the wedding. So by the time you get to the wedding, then there's a ton of people. More than just the couple. You've already had encounters with the guests and had fun with them and took their picture and talked and had conversations. And
you're part of the family at that point, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, cool, man. So robertevansphotography.com is where people should go to check you out, right?
No, it's just robertevans.com.
So robertevans.com. Very cool.
Try to keep it simple.
Keep it simple. Cool, man.
Thanks. My Instagram @RobertEvans. My Twitter @RobertEvans.
There you go. Easy. Yeah, I'm the same way. Frederick Van is the same way for me. So I'm switching back and you go with that brand and you stick to it on everything. And there's only one now, and there's probably only one. Well, there's multiple Robert Evans, but you own the wedding photography genre, right?
Right. Well, and I own robertevans.com, but I've had a website since 1994. So
you own it.
I own it.
Cool, man.
I may not be the most famous Robert Evans, but the most famous one doesn't have robertevans.com.
I would argue the most famous one is Bob Evans, right?
The producer.
Yeah. No, I was thinking the restaurant. There's a restaurant.
Oh, the restaurant.
Yeah, Bob Evans is a restaurant.
Yeah.
Cool, man. All right. Thanks, Robert. I appreciate you doing this, man. Yeah, this is great. Thanks for letting me watch you work.
No problem.
All
I
right.
hope you enjoyed it and got something out of it.
I did. Thanks, man. I'll see you around TWiP Pro.
All right.
All right.
Bye.
Peace. This is TWiP.